Mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenja ni kleklas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, your trusted source for in-depth Africa-focused current affairs, broadcasting on DStv 285, GOtv 25, 1up2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. On today's show, South Africa's bold diplomatic play as President Ramaphosa appoints Msembisi Jonas to repair ties with the U.S. Togo's President Faure Gnassingbé steps in to mediate the escalating DRC conflict. Algeria expels 12 French diplomats, reigniting diplomatic fire with France. And the EU weighs in on global conflicts while reaffirming its commitment to African relations. And in our Zimbabwe report, Talent Gore brings us everything from President Emerson Mnangagwa signing the controversial PVO amendment bill into law, journalist Blessed Mhlanga taking his freedom bid to the Constitutional Court, a national athletics milestone, and a musical legend on the mend. All this and more right here on Africa Good Morning. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly. Let's get into our top stories. In a strategic move to repair strained diplomatic ties with the United States, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed former Deputy Finance Minister Msembisi Jonas as his special envoy to Washington amid tensions reignited by President Donald Trump's return to office and his administration's criticism of South Africa's land reform policies and its genocide case against Israel. Following the expulsion of South Africa's ambassador and the withdrawal of U.S. financial aid, Jonas, now chair of telecoms giant MTN, will serve as Ramaphosa's representative to lead negotiations and rebuild relations, despite acknowledging the difficult task ahead. Renowned for his anti-corruption stance and testimony in South Africa's state capture inquiry, Jonas emphasized the potential to rediscover common ground between the two nations. Faure Gnassingbé, the president of Togo, has been appointed by the African Union as the new mediator in the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, replacing Angola's President João Lourenço, who stepped down to focus on Angola's AU presidency. The mediation role comes amid escalating tensions between Congolese forces and the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group, which seized Goma in January and Bukavu in February. Angola had previously brokered direct talks between Kinshasa and M23, but the rebels pulled out of scheduled March negotiations in Luanda following EU sanctions on their leaders. The peace process has grown more complex with a parallel mediation effort launched by Qatar, which recently hosted surprise talks in Doha, and this was between the presidents of the DRC and Rwanda. Algeria has ordered 12 French embassy staff to leave the country within 48 hours, a move France's Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot linked to recent indictment in Paris of 3 Algerians, including a consular official, over the 2024 abduction of anti-Algerian government influencer Amir Boukouz, aka Amir DZ, who has been living in France since 2016 under asylum. Now, he was targeted in previous attacks and allegedly abducted by fake police and released the next day. Algeria accuses him of terrorism-related offenses, while he denies the charges and has previously avoided extradition. The expulsions mark a fresh escalation in already strained France-Algeria relations, which have seen disputes over Western Sahara, the jailing of a French-Algerian writer, and the recent summoning of France's ambassador by Algeria, which called the consular arrest an undiplomatic affront intended to derail improving ties. Now, during a meeting of EU foreign ministers in Luxembourg, discussions on EU-African relations were overshadowed by strong condemnations from Lithuania, Poland and Finland over Russia's recent deadly strike on Ukraine, while African issues remained on the agenda alongside Syria and Ukraine. The ministers acknowledged ongoing tensions and instability across the continent, including deepening crises in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where violence and humanitarian concerns continue to escalate. The EU reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening the ties with African nations, particularly through development partnerships and collaborative responses to conflict and displacement. These discussions come at a time when African countries are navigating complex global dynamics, including the economic fallout from shifting trade policies and reduced emergency aid, particularly in Somalia, as well as increasing pressure from internal political struggles and regional insecurity. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Now, yesterday, something huge happened in Zimbabwe. President Emmerson Mnangagwa signed the controversial PVO amendment bill, and part of what this bill stipulates is that NGOs can't support any political parties in Zimbabwe. Talent Gore will be joining us for the Zimbabwe report shortly to dig more into that.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
It's time to talk to Talent Gore as she delivers the Zimbabwe report directly from the House of Stone. Talent Wabkase.
Africa.
Tamuka Hedu. Now, Talent, President Emmerson Mnangagwa has signed the controversial PVO amendment bill. Take us through this.
Yes, for the past 2 or so years, there has been debate about the amendments of the Private Voluntary Organizations Amendment Bill into law. But on Friday, President Emmerson Mnangagwa signed the controversial Private Voluntary Organization Amendment Bill into law, triggering sweeping changes to Zimbabwe's regulatory framework for civic groups and non-governmental organizations. According to the gazetted text, the new act gives authorities extensive powers to monitor and control the operations of private voluntary organizations, including the ability to scrutinize their ownership structure, funding sources, and affiliation. It introduces a strict definition of beneficial owner and controller, potentially holding individuals criminally liable, including with imprisonment terms of up to 35 years for offenses related to illicit financing or misrepresentation. The law also empowers government to deregister organizations, seize assets, or dissolve entities found to be in breach of the new provisions. The Act established a private voluntary organization board which comprises of representatives from the civil society and different ministries. But some members of the civil society have said that this bill, this new law could be used to target organizations that challenge state policies and expose official corruption. So there has been debates in the past regarding this new law. Members of the civil society are saying that this new law could actually be used to target those organizations which challenge or which rather expose corruption within the government. So they are quite scared that this new law is going to make it difficult for those in the civil organization to actually do their duties diligently. And also you find out that the new law ensures that the government and different ministries rather are parts of the are part of how the civil organizations are running their organizations. So a lot is going to take place. So we're going to see how the civil society is going to respond to this and how the government is going to be involved with the civil society going forward. So most civil society organizations are actually scared that their organizations are going to be shut down. So we're just going to be monitoring the situation to see if any are going to be shut down and see how the government itself is going to be involved with the civil society organizations going forward.
Yes, truly a seismic shift in the civil society and landscape talent. Now, the next story is something we touched on at the end of last week, but obviously it's impossible for us to get the full breadth of the details without you, talent, who's specifically actually in Zimbabwe, to do so. But the story is about Zimbabwe making its first compensation payments to white farmers over land grabs. We're first going to show a video of Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube talking about this payment, and then talent, you can just continue with the story.
One of our commitments as we try to reform the Zimbabwe economy to clear our areas is really to compensate the former farm owners who lost their farms during the fast-track land reform program. So we struck an agreement which is called the Global Compensation Deed a few years back, and we have now begun to honor that agreement. The agreement basically says that we will pay a coupon initially of 1% of the value of or whatever is owed, and then the remainder, which is 99%, is then paid through a US dollar bond. These bonds run for 10 years, and they have a coupon of 2% per annum. So we've begun this process. So recently we paid 3.1 million, which is 1% coupon that is due to the farmers. Basically, 378 farmers were covered out of the 740 farmers who had been approved by our land committee for payment. So we're pleased with this development, and farmers have been equally pleased. We've set up a very robust platform and process for verifying these farmers, the bank accounts where they ought to be paid locally. In fact, anywhere in the world, we can pay anywhere in the world, whether they're in Australia, UK, South Africa, or here in Zimbabwe, we're able to reach out to them. And if you're a paper farmer, you get compensated for both the land and improvements. If you're a farmer who has then lost their land during the fast-track land reform program, you only get compensated for improvements. We're honoring that commitment. This also follows hard on the heels of our payment to those that are covered by bilateral investment protection agreements, BIPA agreements. This is those farmers who are compensated for both improvements on the land and for the land itself. For that, we paid 20 million last year for 2024, and we're due to pay another 20 million in full in 2025. So we can see that we're honoring both tracks of farmer payments, both the BIPA farmer track as well as the global compensation deed.
If you could please just take us more into that story.
Yes, so as Professor Mthuli has said, it is the first payment to be made under the 2020 compensation agreement signed between the state and local white farmers, in which Zimbabwe committed to pay 3.5 billion United States dollars for seized farmland. Thousands of white farmers were forced from their land, often violently, between 2000 and 2001. The seizures were meant to redress colonial-era land grabs, but contributed to the country's economic decline and ruined relations with the West. So this compensation, they are a way of trying to readdress what happened in the past when farms were grabbed from the white colonial farmers who were in Zimbabwe. But Harry Offutt, who's one of the farmers' representatives, said that more farmers have now indicated an interest in signing up for the compensation. However, the majority of former farmers have not signed up to the deal and are still holding on to their title deeds. So most of the farmers, the majority of them, they have not signed into the deal and they still have their title deeds. So some of the farmers, they have actually agreed. They've actually agreed and they have signed they have made an agreement and they have signed for the compensation. But most of them, they still have their title deeds and they do not want to be compensated by the Zimbabwean government. They want their farms.
Thank you very much for that essential update, Talent. Now, another update we need from you is with regards to journalist Blessed Nhlanga, who today is actually 50 days of him being behind bars without bail, and he's taken his freedom bid to the Constitutional Court.
Yes, journalist Blessed Nhlanga has filed papers seeking the Constitutional Court's audience following his decision to challenge the law under which he was arrested. This is after his repeated bail attempts have all been dismissed by both the Magistrate Court and the High Court. Nhlanga, who anchors a discussion slot on Alpha Media Holdings DStv, is accused of violating sections of the new Cyber and Data Protection Act after he allegedly granted airplay to ZANU-PF politician Blessed Giza to throw insults at President Emerson Mnangagwa and further calls for his removal. Nhlanga is now suing Justice and Information Minister who is Ziyambi and Jennifer Muswere, as well as the Attorney General Prince Machaya, challenging the new law in which he was arrested. So he's now going to the Constitutional Court, and he's actually suing Minister of Justice Ziyambi and the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Jennifer Muswere, and also the Attorney General. So his case will now be heard in the Constitutional Court because he's saying that him being detained, today is his 50th day, is not constitutional. In the Zimbabwean constitution, everyone has a right to bail, and regardless of the crime committed, you have the right to apply for bail and you have the right to be granted a bail. So he's saying that how he's detained is not constitutional. So now he's taking his matter to the Constitutional Court where it will be heard.
Getting into the sport news from Zimbabwe Talent, Makusha clocks season best of 10.37 seconds. This is one of Zimbabwe's star athletes.
Yes, Ngoni Makusha is one of Zimbabwe's star athletes, and he finished 6th in the 100-meter heat one of the Botswana FNB Golden Grand Prix Athletics Championship in Gaborone. He clocked at 10.73 seconds, and that is his fastest of the season in a race which was won by Kareem of South Africa with a 10.7. Unfortunately, he came 6th, but that was his season best. We surely hope that he will clock another national best, because he's one of our best 100-meter runners. So we're just hoping for the best for him.
All right, Talent, staying with athletics, there was record female attendance for the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe Championships.
Yes, head coach for youth and junior teams, Brad Nubu, has described the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe Championship as a success. The meet took place at White City Stadium on Saturday and attracted some of the country's top juniors, being the final selection event for the African Union Sports Council Region 5 Youth Games in Africa under 18 and under 20 championship. It produced some exciting and encouraging performances from the athletes. He said the competition was just a resounding success because the turnout was very huge. It gave us the opportunity to select athletes eligible of the age groups for across the country because all the 10 provinces were represented. So they're hoping that they got the best of the best for the games which they are going to partake in during the next coming few months.
All right, talent. Now we end with some entertainment news. Progress Chifumo, the renowned musician and leader of Sounds of Motherland, is currently recuperating in the UK.
Yes, he suffered in Progress. Chivumo is one of Zimbabwe's legends when it comes to music. He suffered a knee injury, but right now he believes that he may have been bewitched because his situation has left his band, which relies on him, in a state of uncertainty since he left Harare during last year's festive season for what was intended to be a short vacation. His prolonged absence has sparked speculation about his status abroad, although he recently clarified the situation in an interview. He said that I am safe in the UK, where I underwent surgery after my kneecap dislocated while I was in Zimbabwe. I thought it was a minor issue, but the injury has caused me significant discomfort since my arrival visit. Chipfumo expressed disbelief over the severity of this condition, stating that I suspect I was bewitched because I don't understand how this problem arose. The talented lead guitarist and vocalist is still grappling with his injury, having collapsed on stage 3 times while performing in Zimbabwe. So he's saying that he doesn't believe that this was natural. This was caused by natural causes, but rather he believes that he was bewitched because right now everything is just going downhill for him ever since he was in Zimbabwe. But still in the UK, nothing is going as he plans, and he is struggling whilst he's there. So we're just hoping that he'll be back home soon, and when he comes, his knee will be doing well for him, or rather would have healed.
All right. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always good to have you on Africa Good Morning. Let's swing straight into the economic news. Now, Air Connect project member Leonard Shipwata says the launch of air services between Windhoek, Namibia and Luanda, Benguela and Lubango by Fly Angola will help enhance travel and tourism between the two countries.
Ladies and gentlemen, our engagement here today is not merely about Fly Angola service to our capital. It is indeed a celebration of partnership, progress, and the shared vision of deeper connectivity between our two countries. Notably, Fly Angola's new routes represent a vital link that enhances the movement of people, trade, and ideas. For Namibia, it opens doors to expanded tourism, investment, and market access, while reinforcing our deep cultural and economic ties with Angola. At Air Connect Namibia, we are committed to advancing a service development in support of national economic objectives. Our mandate is to create and support an enabling environment where airlines such as Fly Angola can succeed and prosper.
DStv 2 at 5, GOtv 25, 1up2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube is precisely where you can always find Africa Good Morning. Tomorrow, we zone in on Botswana. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, Suraja Kanaka.